Markets closes the last day of the week flat with negative bias. Sensex closes just 12 points down. Nifty closes at 5,995 levels, below the crucial 6,000 level for the second straight day. Government to seek rupee trade payments to check the volatility of the Indian currency will lobby major trading partners to accept rupee payments for some of their exports. And tech war between Apple and Samsung heats up. A Silicon Valley jury rules that Samsung must pay to $90 million to Apple for copying iPhone and iPad features in its device. Hello and welcome to Business Wrap on the last day of the week and perhaps the day most of us are waiting for. I'm Sidhant Sibal and here are the top stories. Markets saw extreme volatility throughout the day but closed the session flat with negative bias. This also marked third consecutive week of losses for markets as concerns grow after data showed foreign investors having started to cut positions. Foreign institutional investors sold shares worth 598 million rupees on Thursday. The Sensex closed just 12 points down at 20,217 levels, while Nifty closed 4 points down at 5,995 levels, below that crucial 6,000 level. This is also the second day in a row that Nifty has closed below that crucial 6,000 level. The markets had gained in morning trade but reversed the gains in evening trade. Banking stocks fell in volatile trade after the Reserve Bank of India said it would focus on monitoring of banks' assets quality. The market breadth indicating the overall health of the market turned negative from positive in late trade. Losers on the chart were SSLT, Tata Motors, Bajaj Auto, ITC and Sun Pharma, which were down by between 3 to 1%. Gainers on the chart were ONGC, Tata Steel, GAIL India, HDFC and L&T, which were up by between 2 to 1%. On to global market action, Asian stocks edged higher on Friday as positive political and economic news from the US supported sentiments. Key benchmark indices in Taiwan, Hong Kong, Japan and Singapore and South Korea rose by between 0.01% to 0.62%. Key benchmark indices in Indonesia and China fell by between 0.19% to 0.43%. On to European stocks. The European stocks edged higher on Friday, recovering from the small losses seen the prior day, as investors welcomed upbeat German business confidence data. Key benchmark indices in UK, France and Germany were up by between 0.1% to 0.31%. The government is preparing to lobby major trading partners including Japan, Iraq and Venezuela to accept rupee payments for some of their exports, one of the series of moves to stabilize the volatile currency and make it more globally acceptable. Restrictions on large-scale transaction of rupees against foreign currency are intended to protect India from sustained speculative assaults, but they also limit interest in the rupee and foreign investment flows. Meanwhile, the rupee today breached the 63 mark against the dollar in morning trade due to dollar buying by importers. Later, RBI was suspected to have sold dollar by state-run banks starting at around 62.93 rupee levels in a bid to support the local currency. The rupee finally closed at 62.87 against the dollar, up 6 paise. But overall, the week saw huge volatility on the markets. The week started on positive note, but by Thursday, markets had lost steam. On Thursday, the Sensex recorded its biggest fall in 2 months, while on Monday, the Sensex recorded its biggest gain. Due to the Thursday slump, total investor wealth tumbled by over 1 lakh crore rupees. More such market news in our weekly market wrap.
The week started on a positive note for markets. Sensex logged its biggest gain in a month, up 451 points. Nifty also gained 133 points to end at 6,189 levels. Tuesday, the markets remained wobbly but ultimately ended the session on a positive note. Sensex ended up 40 points to end at 20,891 levels. On similar lines, Nifty rose by 14 points to close at 6,203 after touching 6,212 intraday. But the fall started from Wednesday. Sensex dropped by 256 points to close at 20,635. Nifty too tumbled by 80 points to end at 6,123. But it was Thursday which saw bloodbath on the markets. In its biggest drop in over 2 months, Sensex on Thursday plunging by 406 points on heavy selling triggered by fresh fears that US Fed would begin tapering its economic stimulus earlier than expected. Nifty fell below 6,000 level to end lower by 124 points to 5,999. Globally too, Fed's taper talk hit markets on Thursday, be it European or Asian. All major global indices closed in the red. Only exception was Japan's Nikkei. Japan's main share index closed at its highest level for nearly 6 months after the Bank of Japan said the country's economy was recovering moderately. On Friday, the Indian markets opened in positive terrain, but all in all, the week saw extreme volatility in the markets. Business Desk, DB News.
Pressing various demands, the United Forum of Bank Unions representing employees of public and private sector banks has decided to observe a one-day nationwide strike next month. Meanwhile, the Reserve Bank of India has said that banking industry needs to grow to an estimated 288 trillion rupees by 2020 from about 115 trillion rupees in 2012 to support the economic growth as envisaged in the 12th five-year plan. More such business story in our weekly business wrap.
As always, there was a lot of business news this week. On Monday, Sensex logged its biggest gain in a month. It gained a whopping 451 points to end at 20,851 levels. A report said that Saudis are the world's largest active Twitter users. Indians ranked among the lowest tweeters on the microblogging site at 21st position. The Afghan finance minister was in Delhi and he rolled out the red carpet for Indian investors. Tuesday saw a major leap in women's empowerment, the opening of the first all-woman bank by Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh. On the same day, the Supreme Court issued notice to the Centre, RBI and SEBI, seeking their response on a PIL for putting in place a proper mechanism to regulate functioning of chit funds in the country. On Wednesday, Oil and Petroleum Minister M. Veerappa Moily said that diesel prices will be deregulated in 6 months. Moily is pinning hopes on the rupee appreciating and international oil prices cooling down for reducing this time window to 6 months. Also, Jet Airways concluded its stake sale with Etihad Airways, giving the Abu Dhabi airline 24% equity worth 2,060 crore rupees. This is the first FDI infusion by an airline in the Indian aviation sector and in the largest settlement between the US government and a corporation. JP Morgan agreed to a record $13 billion settlement with US regulators for misleading investors during the housing crisis. Thursday saw Prime Minister Manmohan Singh vouching for more autonomy for public sector units. He also said that public sector units cannot be shielded from competition. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court restrained Sahara chief Subrata Roy from leaving the country. The same day, Finance Minister P. Chidambaram assured Indian diaspora that India is a safe destination. The World Bank said that India will have a good Q3. And finally, to the last day of the week, a report by the National Housing Bank said that housing prices rose in 12 cities of the country. Well, that's all in this weekly Biz Wrap. Meet you next Friday.
Well, now main cues for the next week. The main events for the next week are the expiry of the November 2013 derivative contracts on 28th of November. Among macro data, the government will announce Q2 September 2013 GDP data on Friday 29th November 2013. The GDP growth for Q1 June 2013 moderated to 4-year low of 4.4%, driven by weak manufacturing sector growth. On political front, Mizoram Assembly elections under revised schedule will be taking place on Monday, 25th November 2013. The assembly polls in Madhya Pradesh are also being held on Monday, 25th November 2013. Investors will closely watch macro data points from US for cues on when the US Central Bank might decide to reduce its stimulus program. The minutes of the Federal Reserve's October meeting minutes released on 20th November 2013 signaled that the central bank is on a track to slow down its $85 billion monthly bond purchases program that has boosted the equity markets. Time for a break. After the break, we will tell you why tech wars are heating up.
This is the surreal run of Kutch, the doorway to India. When the night is clear and the moon in full bloom, these white sands light up radiantly. For those nights, the earth becomes the moon. This stark and austere beauty is colorfully contrasted by the people of Kutch, by the vivid colors of their handicrafts and the sweet melodies of their folk music. Close by is the serene and laid-back beach of Mandalay, where the land gently rolls down into the sea. Breathe in the zest for life here, the colorful festivals, the arts, the vibrance. Breathe in a bit of Kutch. Come, breathe in a bit of Gujarat.
अतिथि देवो भव। जापान की मियो को लिखती हैं कि उन्होंने कैसे समझा इसका मतलब। हिमालय में घूमते घूमते उनकी आखिरी बस छूट गई। मियो को कहती है कि वो भारत बार बार आएंगी और जब भी आएंगी कुंजुग आंटी से जरूर मिलेंगी। ऐसे ही लोग अतिथि देवो भव का मतलब साकार करते हैं और कुंजुग आंटी भारत आपको सलाम करता है।
अरे सुन तो।
मुझे क्या सुनाना चाहते हो? जो सुनाओ मेरी सौतन को।
किसको?
अरे वही तुम्हारा मोबाइल फोन जिससे सुबह शाम दिन रात चिपके रहते थे और कहते थे किसान कॉल सेंटर से बातें हो रही हैं।
अच्छा ये बात है।
हाँ क्यों, क्या हुआ? अब बात नहीं होती क्या?
अब तो झट से बात हो जाती है।
ऐसा क्या?
हाँ, अब तो ज्यादा लाइनें और खास तकनीक के कारण खेती के माहिरों से तुरंत बात हो जाती है। और अगर कभी लाइन व्यस्त हो तो अपनी समस्या फोन पर रिकॉर्ड करा दो, वहाँ से फोन आ जाता है और समस्या की हल का मैसेज भी आ जाता है। ये देखो आ गया।
अरे वाह, इसका मतलब इंतजार की घड़ी अब खत्म।
हाँ।
तभी मैं सोचूं कि आजकल मुझ पर इतना प्यार क्यों आ रहा है।
कृषि संबंधी समस्याओं का अपनी भाषा में तुरंत हल पाने के लिए पूरे भारत में किसी भी फोन से हेल्पलाइन नंबर पर संपर्क करें। किसानों का दोस्त किसान कॉल सेंटर।
Welcome back. The tech war is heating up. A US jury awarded Apple about $90 million in damages retrial against Samsung. Apple and Samsung have been fighting in courts for over 2 years. Apple was awarded over $1 billion last year after it convinced a jury that Samsung copied various iPhone features. Apple and Samsung are the world's two biggest smartphone makers. The bitter rivals have been waging a global battle for supremacy of $300 billion worldwide market of smartphones.
A Silicon Valley jury has ruled that Samsung must pay $290 million to Apple for copying iPhone and iPad features in its devices. This verdict comes after a previous jury found Samsung owed Apple $1.05 billion for copyright infringement. However, U.S. District Judge Lucy Koh ordered a retrial because she said that the jury miscalculated the amount Samsung must pay. Samsung is expected to appeal. Apple said in a statement, "For Apple, this case has always been about more than patents and money. It has been about innovation and the hard work that goes into inventing products that people love." Samsung had argued that Apple should not have ownership of a technology like what Samsung said was the basic rectangle shape of smartphones. However, the jury in the courtroom thought otherwise. Samsung was found to have infringed Apple patents, including one that allows users to pinch and zoom on smartphone and tablet screens. The jury's ruling covers 13 of the 26 Samsung devices that Apple had argued copied its technology. These are mostly older Samsung tablets and smartphones. The $290 million figure comes on top of the $550 million Samsung owes Apple as a result of the initial verdict. In total, Apple has now been awarded close to $930 million in the case. A separate trial to determine whether or not current Samsung devices violate Apple's patents is scheduled for March 2014. Business Desk, DD News.
On to more business stories of the day. The severe cyclonic storm Helen, which hit Andhra Pradesh coast, has been captured by India's Mars orbit. Mangalyaan has been back the first set of pictures of Earth capturing the Indian subcontinent and parts of Africa. This is the first time after launch that an instrument on board has been checked for its operation. Earlier, ISRO had performed all 5 orbit-raising maneuvers planned on the Mars orbiter. It will reach the red planet's orbit by September 24, 2014 after over 10-month voyage. Federal Reserve Vice Chair Janet Yellen is one step closer to the top job at the Fed. The Senate banking panel approved her nomination. A full Senate confirmation is expected in December. Ms. Yellen is currently the Fed's deputy chair and will replace incumbent Ben Bernanke in January, becoming the first woman ever to hold the post. US President Barack Obama nominated her for the role in October. If approved, she will become the most powerful woman in financial history. The Dow Industrial closed above 16,000 for the first time on Thursday as stock rebounded from 3 days of weakness after economic data pointed to a slowly improving labor market and subdued inflation. Expectations that Fed could start cutting stimulus have helped to widen the spread between long and short-term debt. Zombies and Roman centurions took over London's Lancaster Square for the launch of Microsoft's next-gen console, Xbox One. Xbox One console has various functions that it hopes will set it apart from its competitors like voice activation, home entertainment application and its Connect feature. Xbox One is on sale in United Kingdom now, with its main competitor, PlayStation 4, being released on November 29th. The US is going to sell its remaining shares of General Motors by the end of the year. If it happens, it would result in a $10 billion loss on the automaker's 2009 bailout. GM was rescued by US and Canadian governments in 2009 as the automaker plunged into insolvency during the financial crisis. The lifeline to GM have cost taxpayers several $billion. Britain's Queen Elizabeth gazed over 2,000 years of history during her visit to the tallest building in Western Europe. That's the Shard. The building reaches 209.6 meters high, and the viewing platform is almost double the height of any of the London's other viewing points. The Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh met staff and toured the view from the Shard, giving them a unique look at the London skyline. Before departing, the Queen unveiled a plaque to mark her visit to the Shard. Greenpeace activists protested outside the headquarters of the energy firm Shell against drilling in Arctic. The protesters carried with them giant posters of Arctic 30. 28 activists and 2 journalists detained in Russia for protesting for their cause. The first of the 30 people arrested by the Russian Coast Guard during the Greenpeace protest against Arctic oil drilling walked free on a bail on Wednesday, that is November 20th. Japanese automakers unveiled a metallic pine tree on model after the lone pine tree which survived the onslaught of tsunami over 2 years ago. A total of 14 of Japan's automakers were involved in this symbolic project, which aimed to display Japan's manufacturing prowess and the unity in the face of a common threat to their businesses, that is a natural disaster. The team went to look at the original lone pine tree which survived the March 11th tsunami that swept away more than 60,000 other pine trees as well as countless lives. The ambassador of the Embassy of Islamic Republic of Iran, Mr. Gholam Raza Ansari, has said that $100 million line of credit being extended by the government of India to Iran will give tremendous push to bilateral trade between the two countries. Asserting that investments by Iran-based businesses into India are safe, the Iranian ambassador said that the government authorities need to implement their promises and long-term finances are required for further facilitation of businesses between both the nations. The Confederation of Indian Industry, or CII, along with knowledge partner the Boston Consulting Group, today released a report on manufacturing situation of the country. According to the report, Indian manufacturing sector is at its lowest point in last 10 years. Also, 15.1% is the overall share of manufacturing in GDP and is the lowest in past 10 years. The report said that the Indian manufacturing is beset by increasing volatility and turbulence. Unlike music streaming service, Spotify has reportedly raised to $50 million in a new funding round, making it one of the world's most richly capitalized startups, valuing at more than $4 billion. Spotify reportedly doubled its revenue in 2012 to nearly $600 million with its growing popularity. Spotify previously raised $100 million almost exactly a year ago with a $3 billion valuation. The Department of Telecom has doubled penalty provision to 10 lakh rupees on companies whose mobile towers will be found violating radiation emission levels. At the same time, the department slashed upper penalty limit in the case of paperworking related issues, mainly late submissions of certificates on complying with norms for setting up mobile towers by 90%. Earlier, the maximum penalty for any violation relating to radiation rules was 5 lakh rupees. Time for a break. Stay tuned.
सुनो घंटी बजी स्कूल की, चलो स्कूल तुमको पुकारे। पल 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 रोशनी जो मिली स्कूल की, जगमगाओगे तुम बन के तारे।
सुनो घंटी बजी स्कूल की, चलो स्कूल तुमको पुकारे। पल 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 रोशनी जो मिली स्कूल की, जगमगाओगे तुम बन के तारे।
कॉपी और किताबें सारी
स्कूल देगा, स्कूल देगा,
यूनिफॉर्म भी तुम्हारी।
स्कूल देगा, स्कूल देगा।
स्कूल अब घर से दूर नहीं है,
हम हो गए फासले,
पहुंचोगे स्कूल के गेट पर तुम।
थोड़ा सा भी जो चले,
प्यार और नरमी से तुमको पढ़ाएंगे, टीचर है ऐसे भले।
सच 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 प्रीत अब है यही स्कूल की, कभी टीचर ना बच्चों को मारे। सुनो घंटी बजी स्कूल की, चलो स्कूल तुमको पुकारे। लाइब्रेरी में जो पढ़ना हो,
स्कूल देगा, स्कूल देगा,
दोपहर में खाना भी तो,
और स्कूल देगा, स्कूल देगा। पढ़ना भी है और है खेलना भी है, दोनों बातें यहाँ।
ध्यान उनका भी पूरा रखा गया है, ये जान ले लड़कियां।
वो जो पढ़ेंगी, जो आगे बढ़ेंगी, तो बदलेगा हिंदुस्तान।
घर 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 शिक्षा जब पहुंचेगी स्कूल की, शक्ति पाएंगे निर्बल भी सारे। सुनो घंटी बजी स्कूल
शिक्षा मेरा अधिकार है।
एक तरफ कोई देश की इज्जत के लिए जान दे रहा है, तो दूसरी तरफ कोई देश की इज्जत को नीलाम कर रहा है। एक तरफ कोई हमारी संस्कृति की परवरिश कर रहा है, तो दूसरी तरफ कोई उस संस्कृति का अपमान कर रहा है। एक तरफ कोई इस देश के नाम पर कालिख लगा रहा है, तो दूसरी तरफ कोई मेहनत और ईमानदारी से उसी नाम को संवार रहा है। आप किस तरफ हैं? देश का सर झुकाने की तरफ या फक्र से उसे उठाने की तरफ? गर्व कीजिए अपने भारतीय होने पर। टेक प्राइड इन बीइंग एन इंडियन।
Welcome back. Education builds a nation. We bring you this special story from Kashmir, where breaking from their shell, girls are looking beyond their rooms to educate themselves in co-education school. Here's the report.
Breaking the shell, girls are looking beyond their rooms to educate themselves in co-education schools in militancy hotbeds of India's Kashmir. Girls in a small school of Thana Mandi village in Rajouri district of Jammu and Kashmir are sharing the classrooms with boys to defy the age-old social norms and take lessons in mathematics, literature and sciences.
तो यहाँ पर अगर हम कंपेयर करें आज से 4-6 साल पहले की बच्चों की तादाद को, जो हमारी यहाँ पे रेशो थी बॉयज़ और गर्ल्स की, उसको अगर हम कंपेयर करें तो लड़कियों की रेशो जो है वो दिन ब दिन बढ़ रही है।
The chairman of the school, Khurshid Ahmed Bismil, said that almost 50% of the students were girls.
हमारे स्कूल में इस वक्त भी 50% के आसपास लड़कियां हैं और जो भी यहाँ से बच्चे गए हैं तकरीबन उसमें 50% बच्चियों ने बहुत ही अच्छी अचीवमेंट का मुजाहरा किया और सोसाइटी में उनका बड़ा अहम रोल बन रहा है।
Often, the mindset of gender-biased society had also prevented girls from going to schools. A student of class 8, Afsana Kausar, was glad to share that most of the toppers in the school were girls.
मतलब कोई हमारी क्लास है उसमें गर्ल्स ही टॉपर है, जैसे कि हमारी शुरू से नीचे वाली क्लास से देखा जाए ऊपर तक मैक्सिमम जो लड़कियां हैं वही टॉपर है। उसके बाद गर्ल्स ने जो इस सोसाइटी में बहुत अच्छा रोल प्ले किया है।
The education of women plays a significant role in improving living standards in the country. And as father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi once said, if you educate a man, you educate an individual. If you educate a woman, you educate a family. Business Desk, DD News.
Well, that's all in this edition of Business Wrap. Have a happy and joyful weekend. Namaskar.